Hi, I'm Ariam, and if you don't know, this is a continuation. Obviously, this will say part 2 on it, but this is a continuation of my reading the comics that come before Knightfall, and I just read Batman number 489. So this was definitely a comic that was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Because, but in a good way, like, wow, everything is really just, you don't know if everything is going to go well, and even if it ends up going well, it's still leading up to bad stuff. So, and I prefer the art a lot more than to the one I just read before this. Still April 1st, and I just finished Batman number 490. This one includes the Riddler, which is a character I've heard about but never seen before, and it was interesting what was done there. It also includes some references to something that I didn't read so far in all these comics I've read, and I've read quite a lot of these comics, so that's odd. But overall, it's more set up that I'm still really enjoying, and it's still really tense. Even though it's set up, it's still really tense. Hi, I'm Ariam, and this is my vlog for week 1 of Aurelium. So if you don't know, Aurelium is a readathon where you have characters who go to a magical university. Well, you're supposed to have 1, but I have 3. But your characters go to a magical university and they pick a degree, and basically they have to take classes for that degree, and the classes are the reading prompts. So this started on April 1st. It is now April 3rd. Let's talk about what I've read so far. So for my character Rafaela, who's learning to be a star whisperer, the first prompt I started was Art of Illusion. And the prompt for this, the first class I started was Art of Illusion, and the prompt for this is unusual formatting. So I chose Superwoman, 6 Scientists Who Changed the World by Lori Lather. So this is unusual formatting because instead of being straight prose, it's little biographies of each woman. So I got to just under halfway through this book. I read 2 biographies so far, and I started the 3rd. So I have like 3.5 left. So just under halfway makes sense. And it's interesting. So the first biography I didn't really like. Like, the woman they talked about was a shark scientist, which would be the coolest thing in the world. But I didn't find that biography that interesting. The second biography I read, I found much more interesting. And if this book had been written by multiple authors, I even went back to check if it is written by multiple authors, because it felt, honestly, like the first biography and the second biography were written by 2 different people. That's how big the difference in my interest was between them. And yeah, so I don't know exactly what went on there. The first one, there was also something that was like, I don't know enough about submarines to know if that's right, but that doesn't sound quite right. So I definitely really liked the second biography. I thought it was very interesting. And now I'm on to the third biography, which is, of course, well, not of course, but it's about Katherine Johnson from Hidden Figures, which, by the way, I DNF'd that book so quick. It was written, I don't know why the font was so tiny and annoying, and why it was so boring. It starts off really boring, or at least that's just me, because I do not understand math, and it just starts off with a bunch of math facts. But I'm liking Katherine's biography. I'm liking it less than the one that was before it, mainly because they insist on calling Black people people of color, and it's so frustrating. Like, when they're talking about slavery, they're like, people of color were in slavery. No, it wasn't people of color. It was Black people specifically. In fact, some of those people of color were also had Black slaves. Like, not the majority of them, but it was specifically Black people, and it's really frustrating me. Like, that's like changing history, you know? Or obviously you can't actually change history, but it's representing history non-correctly. So that's really frustrating me, and it's a mar on Katherine Johnson's biography for me in this book. Okay, moving on. I then read Batman number 489. So I actually have a vlog where I'm reading a bunch of Batman comics. The first one is about to come out, and that was the March one, and now the April one I am currently filming. So that's, you can also hear, so there's more about it in there. Also, it's actually connected to the Batman comics that come on before it. But I didn't say, I read Batman number 489 for Miriam for her conjuration class, where I changed the prompt. The prompt was something else that I just knew that wouldn't work for me. So I changed it for the astronomy prompt, which is read a book at the top of your TBR, and I really, really wanted to get to this first thing in April, and that's basically what I did. But anyways, as to the Batman comic, I saw, now I'm trying to remember what exactly happened in it, and not in all of the other Batman comics I read. Oh yes, this one. Yeah, so this one is like, a lot happens. Did I talk about this? There were definitely some mental health tropes in here that I did not appreciate. And it was a lot of setup. I'm still enjoying seeing Robin and Azrael a lot, but definitely not one of my favorite Batman comics, and I feel like that's going to be, I haven't read any other Batman comics since Arkham Asylum, but I feel like that's going to be true for me whenever Arkham Asylum comes into play. Okay, then, for my character of Radha, I had the class inscription. And this again was supposed to be something else, but I literally did not have a book for it. I did not have any book in my TBR that fit it. I couldn't find any book that's not in my TBR that I wanted to read that fit it. So I again switched this prompt for the astronomy prompt, which is read a book at the top of your TBR. And this time it was literally at the top of my library wish list. And that was Library Mouse by Daniel Kirk. Now this book, I literally, like last week, I was in my reading disorders class and they showed us an example of a kid with dyslexia reading what they said was the first page. It turned out to be the second page in this book, and I thought it was like so amazing. It sounded so cute. I wanted to read it immediately. And I didn't like it. Like, this is a series of picture books. I thought it was going to be awesome. I was going to love it, and I didn't. Now, there are two main reasons for that. One, remember how I said that first page wasn't the first page? It would have been an awesome first page. But they just added, like, some detail in general throughout the book that didn't need to be there. It would have been better with sparser language. However, that isn't the thing that really made me dislike it. That would have just been, like, okay if it were for the second reason. And the second reason was I hated the illustrations. They were very rigid. The expressions on people's and the mouse's face didn't feel like real expressions. The lighting, I don't know exactly what it was about the lighting, but the lighting felt all messed up. So, unfortunately, I really did not like the book because of that. I really did enjoy the concept of this mouse living in the library and writing tiny books, but the execution, specifically the illustrations, I hated. Okay, then I read one more book, and that is Back to Rafaela. Started with her, ended with her for now, for actually astronomy. I read Baba Ve'ola Ganuz, which is actually on my top physical shelf. So, what is this about? So this is basically a comic in a series of comics that don't actually need to be read in order, which are based on different midrashim. So this one is based on a specific midrash about a hidden light, and they end up going to find the light, and there are different midrashim also mixed in, one of which I really, really enjoyed. And I also really enjoyed how they did the midrash it was based on. But there were also things in this that unfortunately I did not love. The main thing was, again, the illustrations. Reading this book and also looking back at other older comics that I have of him and the series, I felt that there was something rushed uncompleted about the illustrations, like he was rushing to a deadline and didn't have time to really refine them. And I could definitely feel it as I read it. Like, you see this cover, this feels refined and done. But let me find an example, because some of them are fine. But, like, let's say this page, it just feels kind of like it's not all the way done. It could have been this, like, he didn't quite complete it. So that was frustrating. There was also, like, a moral here at the end that, in my opinion, was a bit too obvious. I really do not like books with morals. I did enjoy, there was a character in here that I haven't seen before. He was basically a self-insert of the author, but I thought it was really fun to have him along. I'm gonna tell you the truth. If self-inserts of the author are not the main character, I like author self-inserts. But that is so far all the books that I have read, which are a very tiny portion of what I actually need to read, especially if you look at page count. Because these books that I've completed so far have all been beneath 100 pages. And I have quite a few books that are over 400 pages.